everyone for bearing. Thank you everyone for bearing with us with the last minute change given the issues with our physical location. But we'll go ahead and I will call this meeting to order and begin with a roll call. So first, Commissioner Hurst is not present. Commissioner Sani?
Present.
Commissioner Williams is not present. I do not see her online. Commissioner Galvin?
Present.
Excellent. Commissioner Anderson is present. Commissioner Bishop Henchman?
Here.
Commissioner Pinckney is not present. So with 4 out of 7 commissioners present, this constitutes quorum and our meeting is called to order. So the first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve, and I also have an amendment. I added 5 items which are under 9A, which are related to alcohol licenses. Talked a bit about it with the alcohol licensing committee. The protest date on these is not until May 20th, which is our next meeting. So actually, I think it's now premature for us to act on these. We can, we don't need authorization to negotiate. We can go ahead and negotiate, and I would suggest we don't vote on anything until we have something that we can bring back to everybody. So, so I'd like to remove those 5 items and not vote on them tonight.
Okay, great. All right, so we will remove that item from the agenda. Are there any other amendments? All right.
No objections.
Any objections? Great, excellent. So with the caveat that 9A has been removed from the agenda, we will move forward. The first order of business is election of officers. Commissioner Galvin had sent via email a notice to resign from his position, which he had kind of preempted in our previous meeting. I'll turn to you, Commissioner Galvin, and then perhaps go to other commissioners to see if anyone would like to nominate anyone for an officer position.
Yes, thanks so much. Yeah, apologies. I due to some commitments and an impending child coming down the pipeline, I will run out of time to do my duties in good due diligence. So I can still go over the approval of the minutes in the next section if necessary, because those were drafted under my tenure as secretary. But I'd like to nominate Commissioner Bishop Henchman if he's interested and willing.
Commissioner Bishop Henchman, do you accept the nomination?
Do.
Excellent. Would anyone else like to nominate any other commissioners for the secretary position? Great. With none noted, we will go into a vote. We'll go into a roll call vote for secretary. Well, no, sorry, we have no one else who's running. So I think we can, unless there are any objections, we will congratulate Commissioner Bishop Henchman on the new position. All right, with no objections noted.
No objections.
All right, great. Commissioner Bishop Henchman, thank you for serving as secretary.
Already
All right.
taking. Oh.
You're already taking notes. Excellent. You're already on it. Amazing. All right, so we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is approval of meeting minutes of the March 18th meeting. I'll go to Commissioner Galvin.
Thanks so much. So yes, drafted them about 10 days out from our last meeting and posted it to the website last week. And so I just want to see if there are any other changes or items that may have been missed. If not, I'd like to move to adopt the meeting minutes as noted.
I second that.
Great. Any additions? Great. With none noted, we'll go ahead and approve the minutes. Great. So then next item are officer reports and commissioner announcements. I'll go to, since there are 4 commissioners, I'll just open up the floor to see if anyone has any announcements. I don't believe that there are any notable announcements from the treasurer's behalf. I know Commissioner Hurst is not present, but I'll go to the other commissioners to see if there are any announcements.
I might be preempting Mr. Black on this, but tomorrow is Emancipation Day. City services will not be operating or will be operating in limited capacity, which means if you're expecting trash and waste collection Tuesday onwards this week, everything's going to be sliding one day. So just be aware of that.
Commissioner Galvin?
Yeah, I just want to mention in my single member district, there has been a request from DDOT to install or notice of intent to install speed bumps along 2nd and 3rd Street Northeast, along the 2500 block, and also along Douglas Street. Oh no, sorry, Channing Street Northeast. So those are impending, and I've spoken to some neighbors and haven't had any objections to them. I think it will add to the safety of that particular area, considering the rec center, the school that's nearby, and the residential community. So just wanted to let folks know that's coming down the pipeline, and there is some road work that will be associated with some potential parking impacts as we get closer. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Bishop-Henchman, anything from your end?
Think for me.
All right, great. I think from my end, in our single member district, unfortunately, there was a big fire overnight on the 300 block of Seton Place. I know that our moker, Mr. Anthony Black, is on the line. I'll turn to him during his updates to provide more information on what is being done to help those community members. I know he was on site until 4 a.m. This morning. I know that there are also have been some efforts amongst community members to organize and help provide immediate assistance. So I know that those has been shared on different community listservs, but we'll make sure to amplify more information as we learn of more. Separate, I wanted to share that DDOT has also will be conducting some work on 3rd and U Street to V Street. The work is set to start on April 18th and should take apparently around 14 days to complete, and thus curbside parking will be prohibited during that time. Okay, I think those were the big updates from my end. Any other commissioners before we move on? Okay. We will move on to announcements from representatives of elected officials. I'll turn to Mr. Anthony Black, if we could recognize him. You should have been made a co-host now, and we see you.
Yes, I do. Yes, I am. Good evening, ANC 5F. My name is Anthony Black. I'm your Ward 5 liaison for the mayor's office. Commissioner Sani, you did steal a little bit of my thunder, but yes, those services will be, as you said, those services will be pushed up a day due to the holiday tomorrow. Commissioner Anderson, I do want to touch on the fire that did occur last night at Seton Place. There was a 2-alarm fire, 303 Seton Place Northeast. 4-unit building, but only 3 units were occupied. That fire had major effect on the surrounding units, which was 301 Seton Place, as well as 1809 and 1811 3rd Street Northeast. In my efforts, I did reach out to HSEMA. HSEMA did respond to the scene. Did reach out to Red Cross and DOB. every resident was accounted for. There weren't any injuries. We did find out that all the residents did have homeowners insurance. So that was a major plus. As you know, once the homeowner indicates that they do have insurance, it isn't but so much that the government can do from that point. But Red Cross did provide small bags for the residents with some items to make it throughout the night or whatever the case may be. I have been in contact with the residents today just to check in to make sure. After I did speak with you, Commissioner Anderson, I did reach out to the residents. All of them are either staying with relatives or at hotels. But they were able to get in contact with their insurance companies. And I know they're working to, get those repairs done. As far as updates on my end, I mean, street sweeping is always a big one. Please make sure we're moving those cars on the opposite side of the streets during street sweeping days. Alley cleanings. If there's an alley cleaning that you would like to have cleaned, you can put a 311 request in for that now. They won't start alley cleanings until May, but I feel like it's good to get those requests in early so that you can get an early alley cleaning date. Again, my ward days, Tuesdays and Fridays. Please feel free to reach out if there are any issues or concerns. I encourage all residents, ANCs, to just schedule some time, and we can always walk together to address these issues and concerns. One more, the mayor did release her 2025 budget to council. It's a very tight budget. But I will drop the one pager of the wins that Ward 5 did receive in the chat so that everyone can have that. But that's it on my end. I'm open for questions and concerns.
All right, I'll open the floor first to questions from commissioners, and then to members of the public. Any commissioners have any questions or comments?
I did just drop the one page in the chat for the Ward 5 for the Ward 5 wins. So
great, thank you so much.
I know it's an agenda item later on, but I did want to extend at least my appreciation to the mayor for keeping the proposed Eckington Edgewood Library in the capital budget.
absolutely.
And I know there was a lot of stuff that didn't make the operating and capital budgets, and we're very grateful that did.
No, absolutely, Commissioner Hinchman, and I'll definitely make sure I let her know that that 5F is pleased with that.
Yes, definitely. I know a lot of community members are looking for updates regarding the library, so thank you for keeping that in the budget. And thank you for your efforts in helping the community members on Seton Place. I know it was a long night for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll make sure I keep you updated as well, Commissioner Anderson, just throughout correspondence with the residents as well. But again, I did check on them again today. Everybody was much better spirits than they were last night. But I will definitely make sure that those residents are assisted in the manner that they should be.
Thank you so much, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help support those efforts. I'll turn to the members of the public. If you would like to ask Mr. Black a question, please use the raise hand function and we will recognize you. Okay, I do not see any hands raised, so we will move on to the next presenter. Thank you so much, Mr. Black. Amazing. So the next item that we have on the agenda is we usually have someone from the council member's office present. Unfortunately, Mr. Bonner was not able to join us, but he did send written updates. So I will pull those up now and share those. Give me one moment. Okay, here are the updates. First, the next Ward 5 monthly public safety call will be April 24th at 3 p.m. So you can always sign up at ward5.us/monthly call. It'll also be a recording that's available on YouTube if you are not able to join live. Second, the budget and oversight hearings schedule are available at ward5.us/oversight. I'll share these links in the chat as well. So you're encouraged to participate by testifying. Then DPW is having a quarterly community conversation on April 24th. We'll share the link in the chat as well. Also, there's free e-waste collection. There is a free e-waste collection event happening at Catholic University on May 2nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll share the link in chat as well. And there are also some notices of intent that are becoming available. We will share links to that as well. All right. Anything else that I've missed? Don't think so. So we will move on in the agenda. I will make sure that those are reflected in the minutes, meeting minutes as well, but I'll share those in the chat imminently. So the next item on the agenda is public comment. If you would like to address if you would like to be recognized, please use the raise your hand function and we will recognize you. I'll give everyone a couple minutes. Mr. Hart, Caleb Hart, if you could recognize.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I was just curious. I know I had mentioned this to Commissioner Galvin at one point with a meeting with him. I live on Lincoln Road across from Glenwood Cemetery, 2315 right there. And that's a pretty active spot for traffic as well as parking with a rush hour lane there. I know that there was updates meant to be happening for a bike lane eventually, and I'm not sure if that was reflected in the budget we saw from the mayor's office. But my question with that, I'm kind of new to the area after a couple of years, and so the bike lane was a new idea to me. I'm just curious to see what efforts might be in place if that is happening to care for the older residents in the buildings on 2315 and the building next to it, Glenwood Properties, particularly elderly residents that will no longer have parking there as a result of that bike lane.
We will go to finish up public comment and I'll have commissioners respond. Thank you, Mr. Hart. Would anyone else like to be recognized to speak? I'm not seeing any hands, so I will turn to commissioners to respond. They would like.
Sure, I can respond at least a little bit. Thanks, Khalib. It's good to hear from you again. I just want to let you know I have not heard anything in particular about the bike lane since we last spoke. To be honest, I have not looked at in heavy detail on the mayor's budget yet to see if it's in there. And I don't know that it was necessarily plans for it. There was a study for North Capitol Street Northeast, which is supposed to include Lincoln Road as part of that study. And I think that's what's considering. I certainly know some residents who are very interested and adamant about a bike lane there, but understand that there are other resident concerns, to your point, about both access for elderly residents and to be able to get to their particular buildings. So I'll try to see if I can get a better update than that. But it's been a while since the North Capitol Street study has provided an update to the commission. So I'll see what I can find out.
All right, great. We'll dig into that further and report back soon. Okay, I will close public comment and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is presentations relating to agenda items. So we have a presentation regarding zoning case 2405 700 Monroe Street Northeast. If we have recognized John Oliver, who will be presenting.
Yes, great. Thank you, commissioners. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, can we all see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Commissioner. Again, I'm John Oliver with the law firm of Holland and Knight. Here talking about zoning commission case number 25-05, which pertains to the property that's located at 700 Monroe Street Northeast. Here on behalf of the property owner, which is the Bennett Corporation. The property currently houses the Bennett Career Institute. What this case is seeking to do, it's a map amendment which would rezone the property from the MU3A zone to the MU2 zone. Again, here, just what you're seeing on the right-hand side of the screen is the zoning map. As I've mentioned, the property is currently zoned MU3A. The property that's just north of this site, you can kind of see it in that hatched pink, was rezoned to MU2 IZ plus at the end of 2023. That is the exact same zoning that 700 Monroe Street is seeking. We can see 700 Monroe Street in kind of that light shade blue right there. The property itself, just less than 20,000 square feet of land area, is bound by private property to the north, and then to its north is Michigan Avenue. To the property south is Monroe Street, and then west of the property is 7th Street. This slide outlines the standard of review that the zoning commission is tasked with, basically to approve a zoning map amendment. The zoning commission must find that the map amendment is not inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and with other public policies or active programs which relate to the subject site. As I'll walk through in this presentation, the property's current zoning is not consistent with the property's designation on the future land use map. Here on the right-hand side, we have an excerpt of the future land use map. Properties outlined in yellow. Property is designated mixed use, medium density residential, medium density commercial. The medium density residential designation typically defines neighborhoods that are suited for mid-rise apartment buildings. The density there ranges from 1.8 to 4.0 FAR, which is floor area ratio, with greater densities being possible when complying with IZ. The medium density commercial designation includes areas that have a density range from 4.0 to 6.0 FAR. Again, higher is possible when complying with IZ. So the proposed MU2 zone has a density of 6.0, which is compatible with the medium density commercial designation, and 7.2 is possible when complying with IZ. Also, again, future land use map designates the property mixed use, medium density residential, medium density commercial. MU2 within the 2016 zoning regulations is intended to permit medium density development. Therefore, MU2 is consistent with the future land use map, which is within the comprehensive plan. This slide walks through a handful of elements that are found within the comprehensive plan, of which the map amendment is consistent with. Again, as we talked about, it is consistent with the future land use map because the density that's permitted in the MU2 zone is consistent with the future land use map. The proposed map amendment is consistent with the upper northeast area element because the proposed rezoning has the chance to promote growth in a location of the planning area that is well suited for growth. It also advances the land use element of the comprehensive plan because if rezoned, there is an increased development potential of a property that's close to Metro Rail. Also, the district is encouraged to use its scarce land resources in a way that's as efficient as possible for sites that are close to transit, which this site is. The redevelopment of the property will also align with DDOT's transportation goals for the area. Again, the proposed map amendment is consistent with the housing element. The housing element has a goal that was set forth by the mayor to construct 36,000 new affordable units by 2020, or sorry, 36,000 new units by 2025, 12,000 of which are to be affordable. The map amendment will increase the density that's permitted at the site, which will therefore increase the housing supply. Also, as it currently stands, the upper northeast planning area has only met 65.1% of its target. So this, if approved, this map amendment will help further that goal. Again, also consistent with the environmental protection element, because if once the property is developed, it will have to comply with DC Green Building Act and all stormwater management regs as well. Also, property, if rezoned, it is consistent with the urban design element. Again, given its location along Monroe Street and how close it is to Metro Rail. Finally, one thing that I do want to talk about, the Brookland Station Small Area Plan, which was approved in 2009, recommends that development of the site occur through a PUD. However, what we're seeking is not that, it's a map amendment. Reasons why that we believe and we're advancing that the small area plan no longer applies. One, because it was advanced and approved in 2009. When you look at the block in 2009, this is the only building there at that point in time. The rest of it is just green space. Also within that small area plan, there's the map in there overlays this property and then the property to the north, saying that that entire block, that whole site should be entitled and then developed as a PUD. As I've talked about, at some point in time, the properties were split. The property to our north went through as a map amendment, so there's no chance for this to advance. as a PUD with that site as well. On this slide, this just highlights kind of the timeline, just the time frame of where we've been, where we're going. Again, we started the outreach for this case back in January of 2024, engaged with the Brookland Civic Association, the Edgewood Civic Association, Commissioner Sahani, also reached out to ANC 5A, followed up a few times. Well, they are not affected, but they are just north of this site. Have not heard back from ANC 5A. On February 8th, issued the notice of intent. On February 20th, met with the Brookland Civic Association. On February 26th, met with the Edgewood Civic Association. Then had a private meeting with Commissioner Sahani on March 8th. Then we met with ANC 5A's zoning committee March 13th. We filed the case itself with the Office of Zoning on March 25th. Recently received a case number. It is April 15th. We're here meeting with you guys. We anticipate that the zoning commission will consider the case to be set down for a public hearing either July or after their August break in September 2024, but we haven't really pushed that yet because, you know, we're still engaging with the ANC. Again, given that we anticipate a public hearing on the case occurring sometime towards the end of 2024. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions that you guys might have. And ultimately, we are here seeking support, which is consistent with what ANC 5F's zoning committee voted as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. I will turn to the commissioners first for questions and comments. Please use the raise hand feature. I see Commissioner Bishop Henchman's hand raised. You're recognized.
You. And I don't know whether Commissioner Sani wanted to say anything before we get into Q&A, but
I'll make a quick comment. They've met with me, gave me pretty much the same presentation, asked a few questions, and I'm glad to see that's kind of been incorporated in subsequent versions of this presentation. They also presented to the ZAD committee. I believe Mr. Stone is on the call as well, and they voted unanimously to advance it here. And that is all the comment I will give.
thank you. That's all very helpful. Just so I know it's the right building, this is the 4.5 story Bennett Career Institute building at 7th and Monroe. That's what it currently is.
Yes, Commissioner, that's correct.
Got it. And then you mentioned in your outreach that you've done outreach to the civic associations in Brookland and Edgewood. I'm just curious what the feedback you got at those meetings was. Yeah, of course. We do have support from the Edgewood Civic Association and the Brookland Civic Association indicated that with the property not being located within Brookland, that they would defer to Edgewood, have it gone back to seek a vote at this point in time. All right, thank you. Let's see. Do you have any, I know with a map amendment, you don't necessarily have a project in hand because that will come after you have to amend the map before you can come up with what you're going to build on it. But so, you know, I fully understand if you dodge this question, but what kind of project is anticipated for the site? Yes, of course. And I would never attempt to dodge your question, Commissioner. But just with the nature of this project, this is a property owner that currently owns an asset, which is an office building. Office buildings are not doing so well. They saw the property just to their north go through the map amendment process. So candidly, they also were intrigued by that. They figured that that's something they should do as well, to reposition the asset that they own. If and when the site is built out, again, there are no plans at this point in time because their intention is just to follow what's happened to the north.
But now just speaking what I think would occur, it would look like exactly what's currently on kind of this block right now. Some kind of mixed use building, retail, first floor, multifamily above it. Hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you. And then just so everybody, just to remind everybody, MU2 versus MU3, what would be, what does MU2 enable, basically?
Yeah, so MU2, same type of uses are permitted. Again, it's not, as far as the uses go within the mixed use zones, it's on the lower intensity side of uses. Your height does increase, whereas MU3A permits 40 feet as a matter of right, MU2 permits 90 feet. The density also increases as well. Again, you're going up to 1.0 FAR to 6, 7.2 FAR.
Yep, that's my understanding also. Madam Chair, that's all the questions I have.
Great, thank you so much. Any other commissioners have any questions or comments? Great. I had a question for you, Mr. Oliver. Have there, I know that you have mentioned the entities that have expressed support. I just wanted to see if there had been opposition and what the nature of any opposition that you've received might be. Like if there's a particular area or a topic of focus that any opposition has been focused around.
We haven't received any that's been extremely vocal. I think people at this point in time, the only pause or problems we've heard with the project itself is frustration over a lack of site plan. However, as I've talked about, map amendments, it's just whether or not the request is not inconsistent with the comp plan. And the fact of the matter is that the property owner owns an office building, has an asset, not necessarily sure what to do with it, looking to re-entitle the asset. So that's been a problem that we've heard. That's been our response, but nothing vocal besides that.
That is helpful context. Thank you very much. Any other commissioners? Great. I will open it up to questions and comments from the public. Please use the raise your hand feature, please. Mr. Stone, you have been recognized.
Yeah, I just want to comment. Mr. Oliver did come to us on March 13th for the ANC 5F Zoning and Development Committee, like he mentioned. We had a great meeting with him during that where he talked about a similar question I had about how other stakeholders have responded to this plan and some questions about whether the map amendment would be bringing the development in line with adjacent properties. He responded very well to both. And as a result of us thinking that this would be good for the community, the ANC 5F Zoning and Development Commission did vote unanimously in favor of advancing this the map amendments. And we would love to see the commission support it tonight.
Great, thank you so much for that additional context, Mr. Stone. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised, so we will move on to the next item on our agenda. So the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. For those of you who may be newer to ANC 5F meetings, we use this feature called a consent agenda, where it just helps our meeting run more efficiently. There are 2 resolutions that are included there, so it allows us to adopt those if we are all in favor of it's intended for agenda. It's intended for items where we may not need further discussion. We always ask any commissioners if they would like to remove any of the agenda items from the consent agenda before we vote on them. The idea is that because we anticipate most commissioners being in favor of them, there are items that don't require discussion. If they require discussion, then we should be removed from the consent agenda. Okay, with that said, would any commissioners like to remove any of the items that are currently reflected on the consent agenda off the consent agenda? Great. None noted. We'll go ahead and proceed with the consent agenda vote. I will do this as a roll call vote. Commissioner Hurst is not present. Commissioner Sani,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams is not present. Commissioner Galvin,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson votes aye. Commissioner Bishop Henchman,
Aye.
Commissioner Pinkney is not present. So with a vote of 4 in favor, none against, and no abstentions, this motion passes. Moving on to the action agenda, which is the resolution supporting zoning case 2405, which is the presentation we heard from Mr. Mr. Oliver. Sorry, Mr. Oliver. We will again. Is there a motion on the floor?
Sorry, mess up the muting. Yeah, I move that we vote on this agenda item, this resolution as drafted and submitted.
Great. Any
Second.
Great. Any objections? Great. With that said, we will move directly into a vote regarding this resolution. We will move into a roll call vote again. Commissioner Hurst is not present. Commissioner Sani,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams is not present. Commissioner Galvin,
Aye.
great. Commissioner Anderson is myself, and I vote aye. Commissioner Bishop Henchman,
Aye. Sorry.
Commissioner Pinkney is not present. So with a vote of 4 in favor, 0 abstentions, 0 against, this motion passes. So this resolution has now been adopted. Now we will move to the next item on our agenda, which are reports and presentations. So we have a presentation from the DC Public Library. So we will recognize Ms. Sacoccio, and I also believe one of your colleagues is joining. Is that correct, Mr.? I see if we can recognize Martha, and then she can let us know who else has joined from the DC Public Library.
Oh, there. I tried to unmute myself before and it wouldn't let me. So I was sitting there waiting. Yes. Hi, I'm Martha Sacoccio. I'm Director of Community Engagement for DC Public Library. My colleague, Jaspreet Pawa, is about to jump on. I just texted her and told her to jump on. So she's going to jump on momentarily. She was trying to do 2 things this evening. And Jaspreet is our Director of Capital Planning. So and so we have and she will have a short slide presentation for you all, but I know we mostly want to spend the time sharing the site selection options that we have. Oh, and there's also I think there's going to be someone from Key Urban possibly joining us. I don't see them there. But if he does come, maybe we can also unmute them just in case if they have anything to add. They're the consultants that assisted us with the site selection process. So I don't know why she's not jumping on. Come on, Jaspreet.
Well, thanks so much for joining.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for letting us know that there's been a lot of excitement about this project. So
yes, we are excited about this project too. I know these things feel like they take a long time, but there's a method to our madness. So we are really hopeful that we'll be narrowing this down in the near future. While she's jumping on, I'll just give you a little bit more background also, which is that last summer, early last fall, we also conducted some key initial community engagement to get some feedback from folks about travel patterns and other kinds of concerns that people would have around the types of locations that they would want us to see. Now that we have a short list of actual potential locations, we plan to be coming back out to the community again this summer with some additional more focused engagement. So I will be reaching out to you all and hopefully working through this ANC, the ANC to your south there as well, and other stakeholder groups to make sure that folks can give their feedback. Okay. Oh, Samantha's on, but Jaspreet, we don't see you, Jaspreet, if you're there. Can you unmute Samantha Doerr?
I promoted her to her co-host, so she should be able to unmute.
Hello,
Sam,
good
is
afternoon.
Jaspreet with you?
No, not yet. Give her a call.
Where is she?
We can also, it might take a minute. We can also
It just jumped
community.
on.
Oh, okay, great, excellent. I
There
was just
she
gonna suggest.
is.
Great,
Okay.
excellent.
We moved too
That's great.
fast tonight for them. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, we never move that fast through an agenda.
I know, right?
Hi, everybody.
We had the poll at the betting poll at 8 o'clock. So Jaspreet, I gave them a quick introduction, just
Excellent.
where we stand. Is there
Okay.
anyone from Key Urban on the call, Jaspreet? Do you know?
I think we had them on standby, and my
Okay.
colleague Sam DeRay is also plugged in. And Sam is the one who I tasked with keeping them on standby. Sam, can I request you to tell us if they're on?
Oh, there he is. He just came in. Don.
Yep. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. All right.
Amazing. Why don't we get started?
Yay! Go ahead, Jaspreet. Do you want to share your screen?
Actually, Sam, can I ask you to run the document
Yep.
on the background?
Yes. One
Perfect.
second.
Hi, everybody. Unless Martha has introduced me, I'll go ahead and reintroduce myself. I'm Jaspreet Pawar. I'm the Director of Capital Planning and Construction. I've been with the library now for almost 8 years. My focus has been, design excellence and the neighborhood libraries. We've done some great work, and we still think there's a perfect library out there to be built. And so our journey continues. Thank you, Sam. Rich, our executive director, who I hope some of you have met and will meet again, is not here. So I'm stepping in, and I'm joined, of course, by Martha and my colleague, Sam, and our consultants from Key Urban, who I'll ask to, plug in a few minutes. So let's go to the next slide. Already did the team introductions. We want to talk about the timeline as we understand it. Sam, can we go back to the agenda slide? Thank you. And in the timeline, while we'll touch on where we are, what's important is we want to lay the groundwork for what comes next. Thank you, Sam. So this is sort of like, if you look at this roadmap, which is what we call it, our journey of getting from where we started, which is when the city blesses this idea of, yes, there is a library that needs to be funded, to the point that we open the library. So this is our journey, and I apologize, my dog is kind of getting very excited. So we started with Key Urban last year and culminated their site inventory work, or their preliminary findings about the site inventory, which is what we want to dive into today. And if you look at that icon between site inventory and shortlist and finalized site, that's where we want to come to you, and that's our next step. In collaboration with you, we want to understand what the best site is, what the best path forward is for getting you, your community, Eckington Edgewood community, the library. Then we kind of migrate into a site finalization, which has some nuances, which we're going to talk about. And once we have that, then we proceed with, getting the design and construction journey started. This is notional to say that typically our design and construction, pre-construction phase takes about 2 years, which has a lot of community engagement, a lot of consultation with entities with jurisdiction, including sometimes historic preservation, National Capital Planning Commission, Commission for the Fine Arts, and the other alphabet soup of our agencies. Once our design and construction process is, at a good point and we file for permits, the construction journey can be up to 2 years, depending on what we are building, etc. So that's sort of like the sequence of our roadmap. And the timeline underneath is associated with all of this is sort of like notional. Of course, anytime there is a lever pull, this could evolve. And our goal is to keep everybody absolutely plugged into the evolution or deviation from this. Moving on. All right, so where we are is, Martha, feel free to chime in on any community engagement takeaways that we had another firm called Link Strategies undertake. They came out in some, while Key Urban was doing the inventory, Link Strategies was picking up some parameters from the community to inform our work. So we've got something about that. Next slide. Martha, do you want to speak to the work that Link Strategies did?
Sure. Yeah, so we last summer, and several of you were involved in these conversations. We did some one-on-one interviews with different stakeholders around the community. We hosted 2 focus groups, I believe. One was with parents of young children, and I think the other one was with just sort of like a general focus group. And then they also did some intercept interviews, just trying to catch people coming and going from metro stops and rec centers and things like that. And then these were really the key takeaways that we heard. Big emphasis on like ease of access, people really wanting, emphasizing walkability and proximity, both to public transportation, but also to the Metropolitan Branch Trail, which I know is like a backbone of your neighborhood. Again, just talked to a lot of people mentioned travel patterns and importance of pedestrian safety, both for seniors and for kids. I know you have some busy roads in your neighborhood that can pose some challenges for folks. People said they really wanted this building to serve as a hub for community gathering. There were people saying that there's sort of a dearth of places where it's free for everyone to gather, and that kind of every age group is welcome. Obviously, lots of people wanting beautiful architecture, maximizing natural light, open spaces. And then again, the last bullet was a lot of this nuance that we heard about making sure this was a place for all ages, not just, not just a place for school kids, not just a place for seniors, something for that is really intergenerational. And that's that.
Great. Just a quick question on that last slide. Was that you said that was from members of the public? Could you just elaborate a bit on kind of the source of the takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, these are sort of a summary of all of the feedback that we heard from that initial outreach that we did.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Martha, quick question. So when you did the outreach to was it parents in the neighborhood? Was it, I guess, how did you pick the people for the survey? I guess, and it's possible I missed it.
We didn't do a survey. We did some stakeholder interviews. And again, I believe several of you were involved in those stakeholder interviews.
Yeah. No, I remember when we did the walkthrough.
Other ANC commissioners. I think there was some a PTA that gave some people, and that I believe is where they got the focus group. And I should go back and look and see which PTA it was. I can't remember. But that was where we found the parents that participated in that focus group.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And we'll be doing a second round of that, more focused, once you see what Jaspreet has to share.
Thank you.
All right, so as we were bringing Key Urban on board, which by the way, we selected Key Urban through a competitive process. And for us, the competitive process is we put out a request for proposal with the scope that you see in front of you. You know, for us, it's ideal to have a library that's close to public transportation and adjacent to other neighborhood amenities, to give them sort of like a framework to look within. We are open to both a standalone building or being part of a planned mixed-use development, and planned being the key word there. And then, of course, we have to give some parameters from the library world as to for a site to be viable, and before any commitment can be made from the district, we want to ascertain broad community and elected official support for the location, which is sort of like our journey with you begins here, right? Simultaneous to that, to continue defining what viability means, performing due diligence with entities having jurisdiction. In our world, we say, let's find out if there's any bodies buried there, right? Archaeologically speaking, or if there's like a oil spill or what have you. What are we signing ourselves up for before we commit to something? And then if need be, so while we are funded for the project at 24 million, give or take, we have not relayed to the city budget office a need for site acquisition, as we're not aware of the magnitude of what that would be. And it's possible we don't need the site acquisition if we can get into a long-term lease or sort of like a mixed use, because we do bring design and construction dollars to the table. And so these parameters, again, as informed by our master plan, we are out there to give you a 20,000 square foot library. Our preference is to own or have a long-term lease. We don't want to be in short-term lease, which requires an extensive infusion of capital upfront and is probably not the best use of city's dollars. As for standalone buildings or part of planned mixed-use development, planned mixed-use development opportunities have to be compatible with design excellence aspirations. Our board has fully embraced this notion of being part of mixed-use development and contributing to the housing stock in the city. But we do not want to compromise by being in a development that does not embrace our notion of design excellence. Each community deserves to have an excellent civic space in their library. That's sort of like informing. I apologize. Purchasing space in an existing mixed-use facility will not be considered. Renovation of an existing structure, while we could consider it, it's not preferable. There could be an opportunity, and we'll talk about that as we go through our slides. So just wanted to kind of share those parameters. And then we have in collaboration with, while we listed this metrics for shortlisting in the RFP, we wanted our consultants, in this case Key Urban, to take what they felt was relevant for scoring the sites that rose to the top based on these parameters, developability. Next. So to start off, we work with the Office of Planning with the library to identify what comprises logically the Eckington and Edgewood neighborhood. And we'd love to confirm with you that our understanding of what we are showing in the yellow and the orange jives with your understanding of what defines the neighborhoods. And it's important because DC does not have a designated or a defined Office of Planning boundaries for the Eckington Edgewood, but this felt logical to us. And if you want to tell us via chat or subsequently, that's what we are mostly interested in also knowing. Next. So after an extensive process that Key Urban did, and I'm happy to kind of ask them to talk through their process, these 4 sites have emerged. And when I say 4, I'm asking you to look at those green blobs on the same diagram that we showed our understanding of the neighborhood in. And going so from top to bottom, this top side, the 701 Michigan Avenue is up there. It's owned by SK Investments, a private entity. The second lot is on the right side of the MBT, if you can. And we've got some more facts on what the size of it is. Notionally, all these sites that have risen to the top of the top 4 will accommodate a library in some shape or form. Coming farther down, near to Rhode Island, the MRP Bryant Street development, which you guys are acutely familiar with, as I imagine, there's some opportunity. And we can discuss more about that. And then the 4th site, with the 4th blob, is a 605 Rhode Island Avenue, which is controlled by Jar Lynch and Wilkes Development. So those are the 4 sites that our consultant sort of like did some scoring, and in collaboration and conversation with us and the executive leadership at the library, we wanted to kind of share with you. Obviously, all of you have a knowledge of the Penn Center, which is a district-owned asset. And we've looked at it as well. It's an advanced state of disrepair, and our preliminary reaction was, on my part, complete and utter fear. We can discuss if there's any interest. Next. So just kind of diving into what each of these sites, you guys probably know this like the back of your hands, but for our knowledge, we had to kind of study it at that level. And, sort of like, if you look at that dashed green line, that sort of like denotes the area that we are talking about for this particular site. And just to kind of give you some more context, we've kind of saying, zooming in where this is as far as Michigan Avenue, 7th Street, and Monroe Street is, and in context of the MBT. And again, we want to plant the seed of coming back to you in any other format other than maybe today, along with key urban and link strategies to get more nuanced feedback, which we may not have the time for today. Moving on. So again, the same site that we showed on the plan, we understand it as under like 19,000 square feet of space, which has the former Pizza Hut, and it has a zoning that seems to be compatible with what we need to do to build a library. So that's sort of like the existing condition. The second site, so on the left, we are sort of like, again, showing the map. And while the green shaded area is the site that's owned by that Menkiti Properties, the dashed area is what Key Urban has highlighted with them as a potential location or the potential spot on their property for a library to be. Moving on. So these are sort of like, visuals of what that looks like. Thanks, Sam. And then within the MRP, which is the next site that we want to talk about on Rhode Island, while they have ownership of that larger green blob, what's available as a potentially available for library is in that dashed area. And if we can move on to the next slide. So while there is a rendering that sort of like shows what this development would be like, and Sam sort of like moving her cursor to show where one of those buildings is on the right image. So block 4 and 5A, which are projected to be about 110,000. And again, I should have said this in the beginning. We've sort of like teased out this locations, but we have not pressed on with any conversations with the developer, which we feel are premature before we take the temperature with the community as to the location of these. And then there are a whole host of other things that need to be discussed and ascertained. So just a quick teaser here. And then the last 605 Rhode Island Avenue, well, it's right off of Rhode Island, as you can see. You may be most familiar with this. And then these are sort of like the renderings that the design team hired by the developer has sort of like shared. The notion would be, in any of these developments, a library could be sort of like an anchor building at the ground floor level, give or take. But again, all of that is to be hammered out and determined. Next. And then our favorite topic. So we'll share what we know about this and the constraints that at least scare me personally. And so it's a historic landmark. It's about from our but I should put a caveat there. We think it's 16,000 square feet from a quick eyeball of what we experience with some crude measurement tools at our disposal when we visited it. And we did not get attacked by pigeons, but the building is infested with pigeons, etc. So anyhow, we had a quick check-in with the DGS who were gracious enough to walk us through the building. It's a historic landmark. The usable interior from our preliminary calculations is about 14,000 square feet. It has extensive work that would be needed. And from our estimate, it's more than 1.5 times of the cost that we are funded for. Unless we cannot make anything else work, and this is our only option from a cost standpoint, is where we stand today. Next steps. So like I said, we want to continue our conversations with developers of the potential sites. We want to continue consultation with you, and Martha will take the lead on orchestrating how and when we meet, and we'll bring out our consultants. And in consultation with you and with the work that we will do as far as our due diligence is concerned, we want to be able to release a final recommendation. And on the heels of that, depending on where the journey takes us, we may need to get additional acquisition funding. Or if we get into an agreement with the developer with the terms of lease palatable to or compatible with our construction funding, our next step would be to launch a request for proposal to onboard a design build team. That's all I have, and happy to take questions in tandem with our consulting partners from Key Urban, and I see Don is here.
Great, thank you so much. I will go to commissioners first, and then open it up to the public. First, I see a hand from Commissioner Sani.
Yes, thank you for that presentation. It was, I think everyone's been asking about this project for forever, and it's great to see updates that are more substantive than we're working on it, and it's great to see. Very much appreciate you coming to us with these. Obviously, some of the possible sites that have been identified, they are some are in they're in various stages of development or redevelopment, right? I believe both obviously the MRP, the Gyre Lynch, as well as to a lesser extent, maybe the SK Investments site. They all have some form of notional plan for what that building should be and should look like. But on the other end of that spectrum, we do have, I think, maybe the Mentiki Group and obviously the Penn Center locations. Those I don't think I've seen any even inkling of folks maybe coming and saying we're ready to start considering this redevelopment. So with those projects in varying stages of maturity, would selection also have a timeline component there, where if the developers already has more of their ducks in a row in terms of permitting and funding for what they might be responsible for, would that factor into a selection?
I just wanted to add on, that was my big question as well, because I think you did recognize during your presentation that some of the development sites, it sounded like some of the developers had not yet been approached, if I understand the presentation correctly. So I just wanted to see if the timeline, and if you could return to the timeline slide as well, just so we could kind of review that together, if this timeline works for the sites that have been presented in this presentation.
Thank you for those very insightful questions. Logically, yes, we do want our selection process to leverage our funding cycle. Money now is better than money later. Money now buys more than money later, same money later. At the same time, it's a full picture. I think for us, it's about the quality of the product that we ultimately deliver to you drives the train, and less about not insignificant, but less important as to how ready somebody is. I think we can sort of put our power behind getting somebody ready if that's what it takes, or we can expedite some of our processes, but not shortchange our processes if somebody's train seems to be leaving the station faster than we thought it would. To answer your question, Commissioner, our consultants, Key Urban, has made contact with all the developers that you saw, the 4 developers that you saw. They've made, obviously they made original outreach back when we hired them to do this work last year, but in preparation for this meeting, we had them reconnect with most of the developers. And Don, correct me if I'm wrong, you've heard from at least 3 of them and nothing has substantively changed from your last first outreach. Don?
That's correct. Thanks. And those 3 developers whom we were able to reach last week are still open to discussing the presence of a library as part of their development. We were unable to reconfirm that with MRP, but in our conversation several months ago, they also were open to considering a library in those 2 areas that were highlighted earlier.
Thank you, Don. And you know, if there's anything that has not come to our radar that you guys are aware of, you know, we're all ears, and you know, Key Urban, I'm comfortable putting out their contact information if somebody wants to reach out to them and give them more.
Commissioner Galvin?
Sorry, I'm in trouble here. No, thank you again. Really appreciate taking some time to discuss this. Exciting to see spaces on a map and some options and opportunities. Yeah, definitely. I think the community engagement is critical. I think, you know, letting us know, you know, at least a month in advance on, you know, what folks need to be engaged. You know, we all have our you know, communities that want to be involved in this process, and you know, I'm glad to see everything that's located along the Metropolitan Branch Trail, because it really is important. One question I'll mention, admittedly, you know, I love this stuff. This is my excitement. My day job has been construction and programming for the past decade and some change. And so I'd love to be, you know, involved in wondering if, you know, when we get to the scope of work development phase for the design, I know you probably don't want a commissioner in your hands in you know, knee deep in everything, but I'd love to have the opportunity to kind of help along with that, and thinking long term about not just functionality, which I think is really important, but kind of long term maintenance and flexibility of spaces, because for a library that's going to be there a long time, we know things are going to change and how people use the space. So I just want to kind of keep that in mind as how do we really promote, you know, adaptability in a kind of functional space. So,
and Mark, that reminds me, I don't know what happened, Sam, maybe I hid the slide with design excellence, and I should have talked about that. It has all the things that we value most. And Mark, by the way, we've noted that you are available for 40 hours a week to volunteer on this project. So Martha's
I'll have to talk to my other employer first, but yes, happy to help.
Sam, is it possible to quickly take us to the design excellence slide? And to Mark's point, you know, there's so much for us. It's not just, you know, what the building looks like when you know, the bus tours arrive right after we open, but how shiny the building looks, or how cool and calm it looks after 10 years is something that we've learned through our existing portfolio. Sam, I'm ready whenever you are. All right. So, and you know, this is a topic that my team will probably have to put some discipline on me, because I can go talking about it forever, right? So for us, you know, the images on the right, while they're beautiful pictures, but they are all beautiful because they've been designed from inside out. They have a unique response to their context. And response can manifest at so many levels: the scale, of course, the materiality, the transparency. And these are the things that we look for in our design partners, in their ability to very complex, to respond to complex contexts with expertise, right? Connection to outdoors. And, you know, it's music to my ears when Martha comes back and tells me, you know, what we've heard from the community is that they value natural light, they value connectivity to outdoors, because that's sort of like, for us, a design rooted in wellness is a design that's beautiful. Universal accessibility, being ADA is not good enough, right? And we have to constantly challenge ourselves as to what universal accessibility is. And safety, we do want to remain in the public consciousness as the place which is safe, the civic space that's safe to go to, no matter your age, no matter your abilities. And then I couldn't be more delighted that the integration of biophilia has been embraced so broadly by all stakeholders across the city, and that's beautiful to us. Not just, we do know there's been quantified work done about benefits of creating spaces that heal by connecting humans to nature, whether it's nature physically, a lot that has trees in it, natural vegetation, access to light, etc., but also sometimes motifs that kind of are biophilic when you don't have access to all of those. Building with precision, and I think, Mark, this is what you were talking about. Building with precision is something that we place a very high value on. So, when we say we want to interview developers with the mindset of, if you are bringing something which will be above the library, it better be built with precision, because while you may want to sell the condo up above us, we have to live in that building for the life of the building. So precision is important to us. And of course, I'm sort of like the self-styled sustainability champion at the library, and we place a very high value on the entire journey of our built environment as far as environment and ecology is concerned. And then as part of the design process on how you get to excellence is crafting the building program. So, a lot of developers will come to us and say, tell us what you want in a library and we'll build it for you. And that's just not how it works, right? For us, the library's mantra has been, know your neighborhood and deliver for the neighborhood. So the services that you tell us during our community engagement phase, the services that you place the highest value on, will be what the community, will be what the design team designs these spaces on. Of course, there's a fine line on creating those spaces to remain adaptable and flexible as the community needs evolve. And that's where the fine balance comes in. And again, like I said, I could talk about this stuff for a very long time, which I may not have right now, but that's sort of like, I think, the end of our conversation here.
Great. I will go to Commissioner Galvin real fast, but I just wanted to point out, I know that we, in previous conversations, we have talked about the West End Library as an example of a mixed-use library. I just wanted to point out, it seems like most of the examples that are on this slide are standalone buildings rather than examples of ones that are in. Actually, that top one is the West End Library, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Got it. So I just wanted to kind of revisit kind of the idea of how this concept kind of manifests when it is involved in more developed existing developments. But I'll go to Commissioner Galvin as well to make a point.
Yes, thanks so much, Commissioner Anderson. I'll just mention one other thing which the library may not be aware of. And I know there's a big history here in this neighborhood of being industrial. The asphalt plant that is part of Fort Myer, there was a huge community response. There was over 600 people that signed a petition letter against kind of basically removing them or really clamping down on their ability to pollute in the neighborhood. So there was an ANC resolution that was passed as well, and DOEE is currently evaluating all of that. But that was a pretty robust response from the community. More than 40 people showed up to their hearing. So just to kind of give you context, while it is relatively industrial, there is a big pushback right now based on equity and environmental racism and environmental justice over the years. So that my hunch is that there may be some tides kind of changing or moving in a different direction for that. And I wanted you to be aware. That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Would you consider Penn Center being in too close a proximity to Fort Myer?
Personally, no. But I will say that, along that entire, I'm going to call it the the truck yard, for lack of a better term. There is a lot of vehicles that sit there and idle in the mornings, and do create a decent amount of pollution for people who are riding their bikes and using that space. Unfortunately, that's just a reality, but yeah, but there's been substantial calls for enforcement as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, and I'll go to you, Commissioner Bishop Henchman. I don't think that the Penn Center's proximity to Fort Myers should be something that takes it out of the running. The change that we're hearing from the neighborhood is about Fort Myers changing, and that would be a massive disservice to the neighborhood to take Penn Center out of the running. Although it sounds like there are some additional challenges, I think that would be, from what we've heard from neighbors, is that it would be better. I know that their part of the building is being utilized at the moment, but it would be better to see a building fully utilized as an asset to the community, and to see the environmental aspects of the neighborhood changing, rather than being like, we're not going to put a big resource that would benefit the community because of this site that there's already been a push to change. But I'll go to Commissioner Bishop Hench.
We put up the slide of all the sites again, the one slide with all the ones on there. And while you're doing that, thank you so much for this presentation and this update. We're very excited about this project. I get asked about it by neighbors all the time. It's just an essential community resource, and we're so glad to see movement forward on it. And I know all the commissioners here are eager to help out however they can with the process. It looks like 2 of the 4 to 5, I guess, sites are in 5F06, which I represent. I think, I guess to answer a question you asked, I can't think of another location that is obvious to include. I think you did capture them all, at least for the ones I'm aware of in Eastern Eckington. Other commissioners can, point out if there's a site that's missed, but I think you got them all. And I know the developer at 605, I think, would be very amenable. I know MRP's been very amenable for the 600 development. And then for Penn Center, just echoing what Commissioner Anderson just said, I wouldn't take it off the table for any reasons other than budgetary. I mean, if it doesn't hit the budget, then it doesn't hit the budget. We can't do anything about that. But as far as community of any, it's a bit of a derelict building, that warehouse that used to be on the rail line when there was a rail line. I think it's really changed. I think you mentioned it's pigeon occupied at this point. We are hoping that it gets redeveloped by somebody at some point. But if the stars aren't aligned for it to be the library, we'll wait for somebody else, and we'll have to get there. Just want to reiterate that we did set up a library task force of members of the community, and we've got about a dozen members of the community on and eager to help out with getting the word out. And it sounds like there's a bunch of slides today that we want to help get the word out about, and help get community input and buy-in for this great project. And certainly, if there's anything we can be doing as commissioners to help you in the library advance this process and move it along, and answer questions that you might have, consider us, and especially me, willing and eager to help. Thank you.
Phenomenal. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we'll button up what we presented today in a PDF and send along. Martha can distribute it to you guys, and feel free to put that out there.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time, and we will be back in touch probably in, I would say, let's say another month. So give us a chance to get a little bit of an engagement plan put together, and then we can come talk with you all about that. And we do really want to hit the neighborhood this early, and I'd like to try to do it hopefully a little bit before school gets out. I know once the summer starts, it can be really hard to get people's attention. But there are also opportunities in the summer So, but we really want to make sure we get some good feedback from the community about these options. And I don't want us to say too much more really tonight about Penn Center, other than to say, like, you know, it would be a very big budget for a project like that. And as a library, we have to be very sober about those kinds of things. But I hear what you're saying about this building needing to play a role in your community. I find sometimes these things that come best from the community is what I will say, right? If the community can really get behind something, you know, but Jaspreet can probably talk you all day about the challenges of modernizing historic buildings. And sometimes it's maybe not the most efficient, and certainly not the fastest approach. So.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing more about community engagement plans. And I know we have some very active PTAs in the community as well. And a lot of schools in the neighborhood, in addition to different civic associations. I think we are very lucky to have a lot of involved neighbors who are very excited to hear about the project. I know that some of our commissioners have already spoken, but since we do have other folks on the line, do you have time for questions?
We're here.
I will open it up to the public as well. If you would like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature, and we will recognize you. Stephanie, we will make you. All right. You should have the ability to unmute yourself. Stephanie, if you're talking, we can't hear you yet.
Hi, can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I'm a resident of Eckington and serving on the library task force. So I'm really excited to start getting this word out more and helping get community feedback, because I do think we have a very vibrant and active community. I saw a couple of the locations were kind of on the very, very north end of anything in Edgewood, Eckington. I mean, I think not anywhere near Eckington. So I was curious how you took into consideration distance for other libraries to these two neighborhoods, knowing that, because I go to Woodbridge and Shaw a lot, and those are both about 1.5 miles, and looking at like Brooklyn Metro Station, that's about 1.5 miles too. So just trying to understand like how, you know, distance to other libraries was taken into consideration in site selection.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for us, when we started our journey, typically, you know, when we're looking at replacing a library, it's easy, you know, throw a blob around it with a 15-minute walk shed and say, you know, this is where we need to find the site. In this case, it was more about, you know, while our master plan had delineated Eckington and Edgewood, like I said in the beginning, we sort of like defined with our consultants, Don and Nadeem, what that neighborhood was, and said, okay, guys, scan this and figure out what sites live within it. That's sort of like our process. Don, would you like to add something more to that?
Might have lost him. I don't see him on anymore.
He just switched to his iPhone.
Oh, there he is, iPhone 9.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if Don plugs in, if he has more to offer, we'll have him
Hi,
speak.
thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Well, when we did our initial survey, we really did a lot by lot evaluation of all of the sites, all of the lots in the neighborhoods, and we applied the criteria that Jaspreet shared earlier of whether of what the library requires in terms of space, in terms of ownership, and in terms of the type of development that it could be part of. And once we narrowed down that list, we began our discussions with the developers, and we assessed with them whether they would consider such a development. And that's how we ended up with the 5 sites you see here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
great.
I'll just add is, it's not a perfect science, right? We're working with what's available and what's, so if we were creating from scratch and, every piece of land was available, sure, we would want to space things out. But there's also advantages to being near public transportation, so there's different considerations.
Great. Are there any other questions from folks in attendance? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Thank you so much for the presentation. I know that everyone is very, very excited about this project. So we'll look forward to staying in touch. And if you all could share the slideshows that you've shared with us today so that we can circulate them, that would be highly appreciated. And we'll stay tuned about more community engagement. And yeah, Martha, I completely agree. If we're able to catch folks before the summer, that would be very welcomed.
Yep.
Sure.
We will endeavor to do that. Thank you all so much for your time. Take care.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is report outs from committees. So the first committee that we have is alcohol and cannabis licensing. I don't see Ms. Coughlin online, but I'm not sure that I saw emailed responses, but Commissioner Bishop Henchman, is there anything to report out? I know we had kind of talked about that there are a couple of impending settlement agreements en route.
We, Ms. Coughlin had a previous engagement. I think she emailed us about that. I've got 5 in my district. It's the 5 that were listed on the agenda that we didn't vote on tonight. So we'll be reaching out to the establishments. Some of these are liquor stores, not liquor serving establishments. So we're certainly, I and the committee are both interested in feedback from the community on what people might want to see in a settlement agreement with some of the liquor stores we have on in the community. And then I think there were 2 other establishments that were noticed on, and I think Ms. Coughlin was looking for guidance on whether she should move forward with those along with the other 5 or, wait. But the protest dates on all those is May 20th, which is the date of our next meeting.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much. I do see her update. So I think probably the best action forward is that the committee liaises with the commissioners in the respective areas. I see that one is for in Commissioner Williams's district, and one is in Commissioner Galvin's district, or SMD. So I think if they could work with the individual commissioners, just to make sure that the commissioners of the SMDs are involved, I think that would be the right process. I also, I think it's helpful to note that she had noted that some of the locations that are up for with the protest deadline have received negative community feedback in the community feedback form. We'll make sure that we'll send a link to the community feedback form in the chat, include that in the minutes as well. But that is a great way to express feedback, just so it all goes to one place. Just to kind of say the locations that are up for renewal are Franklin Liquors, Sosnick's, Prime Barrel, 501 Wine and Spirits, Go Puff, Grape Intentions, Franklin Liquors and Market, Max Wine and Liquors, and we've already mentioned Sosnick's Liquors.
That was 7. I
The
think.
next, yeah, great, excellent. And then another renewal that is coming up which will be discussed later at the May Alcohol and Cannabis Licensing Committee, is Wardman Wine. So if you have strong feelings about Wardman Wines, please join the next Alcohol, Cannabis and Licensing Committee meeting, which is Wednesday, May 1st at 7 p.m. Great. I think those are the big updates. Commissioner Galvin? You are not muted, or you are unmuted. Sorry, you are muted.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. So no, I just wanted to let folks know there were a lot of questions from on the cannabis side for temporary legislation, which allowed folks who had open stores that were gifting cannabis as part of selling other things. I know that Trending Leaves, which is in my single member district at the corner of Rhode Island Avenue and Lincoln Road Northeast, they did not apply for the medical cannabis, and so they will be subject to enforcement. So just wanted to let folks know that that's the most recent update for that. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Galvin. Anything else on alcohol or cannabis? Great. Moving on. Community engagement. I didn't see any email updates. Commissioner Sani, anyone?
No, the biggest thing was still waiting to hear back from OANC on the Zoom licensing situation. It's especially thrown off because there's some budgetary issues where they might lose the funding they were earmarking for the Zoom licensing, as well as some of the other things we were looking at, like their website hosting and mailing list provider. So that keep an eye out for that in the budgetary cycle if that's of interest to you. Or if you support those things being introduced to the budget, please reach out to your council member or council members, I should say. And the other thing is, of course, the resolution that we passed today to amend the budget for the new Zoom costs, because we did get rebilled at the beginning of this month, or middle of last month rather, because we are now on our annual cycle. So the good news is if OANC does give us Zoom access, that does get refunded. The prorated balance does get refunded back to the commission, so we're only paying for what we use. So those are the big items that have been tracked.
Great, excellent. Moving on to public safety and health. Mr. Aaron Price could not join, but did send a written update. So a couple things. There's a DC statehood resolution, a draft in the works. We'll put that on the agenda for next meeting. The public. Oh, hi.
Yeah, I was like,
Mr.
he's
Aaron
online.
Price. All right, great, excellent. I thought you weren't joining, but excellent. You're recognized.
Hello, sorry about that. Had a meeting that went way over, but I was able to make it right toward the end. So thank you all. Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, neighbors. For those new, my name is Daniel Aaron Price. I'm the chair of ANC 5F's Public Safety and Health Committee. A lot of really great updates. I'll be as brief as I can. DC statehood resolution. So thank you again to Commissioner Sani and Commissioner Anderson for sponsoring this resolution and putting that on the agenda for next month to be voted on. So appreciate both of you working through that. Another update we have is we are in the midst as a committee to finalize a community engagement strategy that focuses on door knocking, outreach to apartments, and kind of a conglomeration of working through various events that we've identified in our ANC, just to get the word out about who we are as an ANC, what we do, how neighbors can tap into the work, and other opportunities they have to engage with everything we're offering as a commission. So we will be hopefully finalizing that at this week's Public Safety and Health Committee meeting. And then we'll be distributing that engagement strategy to all commissioners prior to the next ANC meeting for input and hopefully approval so we can move forward with our strategy. My next update for you is we've owned in on our next resolution. So we would like to focus a resolution on environmental justice due to the introduction of the Environmental Justice Act in DC Council. We'll be crafting language for this very soon, but the bill is progressing slowly. So therefore, there's no immediate rush to put forward a resolution. But in the next couple of months, be ready to see a environmental justice resolution in your inboxes. The most exciting update I have for you is that we've been reached out to by ANC 6B, who represents the large swath of Capitol Hill and portions of Southeast, and their Public Safety Committee and Committee Chair. They have been impressed with our ANC's progress on public safety resolutions and advocacy, and therefore they wanted to partner with us to create a larger public safety resolution that can be mass adopted by many ANCs. And they would like us to craft this around a recent report that we read as a committee on gun safety and gun violence reduction in DC, using evidence-informed solutions to crime. So we'll continue working with them and hopefully set a new standard when it comes to collective action at the ANC level. For those that are interested in joining on to the vast amount of work that we've been taking on as a committee, our next Public Safety and Health Committee meeting will be this Thursday, April 18th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. in the Judd and Wheeler or Eckington Community Room. We will also have a virtual option to join that you can find on the website. And then, as I do with all of these updates, I always love to provide a community resource that you can tap into related to public health or safety. So the resource that I want to share for this month is the Metropolitan Police Department has a citizen online reporting tool, or COURT for short, and individuals can log on to COURT and they can quickly access a police report that you can fill out very quickly. The report that you can fill out is related to any lost property, lost vehicle tags, theft from auto, destruction of property, or damage to property online. In the meeting minutes for this meeting, you'll see a link to access the COURT system, but it's a very quick and effective method to file a police report from your home. Feel free to use this tool. And hopefully you won't have to use this tool, but feel free to use this tool if it is applicable. It's quick and easy and will tap into MPD's infrastructure. That's all I have. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you so much. Any questions from anyone? All right, perfect. Moving on, Transportation and Public Space Committee, Commissioner Sani.
Yes, the TAPS committee did meet this past month, and let me just pull up the notes I have real quick before I jump in. Yeah, so we didn't come in with any resolution that we wanted to draft. We've put out quite a few that thankfully the commission all passed along. So we're now spending time revisiting other items that have been on our list for potential new business. So Commissioner Galvan came to us and talked to us about the potential for reducing some folks who might be cutting through a neighborhood road in his SMD, and we discussed what might be possible there and came with some action items for community engagement and or figuring out what the ask from the city might be. Additionally, we discussed potential for speed humps based on proximity to some new schools that may have opened in the community. We additionally received word, I don't know how concrete this is, not from anyone in the city, that Ward 6 may be rejecting some of the public restrooms that are going to be piloted in their community. And as a result, those might fall to someplace alongside the MBT because of obviously being a public amenity with a great amount of need for some facilities like that. So just keeping an eye out there for the public space component. And then on top of that, we had additional discussions on some of the moped use we've seen on the MPD or on the MBT, and trying to decide how to best engage city stakeholders to see what can be done with how sporadic that traffic is. And yeah, so we've all kind of gone to our some of the committee members are drafting resolutions, draft resolutions that is for the committee to discuss, and going into next month's meeting, which is probably going to get pushed back by a week due to travel. We'll be discussing and going over those to see what we think is worth promoting up to the commission as a whole.
Great, thank you so much. All right, moving on to zoning and development. Mr. Son, any updates from your end?
Yeah, so we don't have any updates for the month of April as we didn't have any new cases brought before us. In March, I was not available to update the ANC as I was traveling abroad. But in March, the Zoning and Development Committee did approve our rules and procedures and approved the map amendment case we heard today, as well as a BZA case. Our next meeting will be May 8th, which is the second Wednesday of the month. It will be virtual and at the Judenweiler Community Room. If anyone wants to join, or if anyone would like to join the ANC committee, they're more than welcome to email me. I can put my email in the chat if someone gives me the ability to do so. But we're absolutely happy to have more people on the committee if anyone is interested.
All right, great. Outreach task force, Commissioner Sani?
I don't think we have a chair for that. Oh, I
Oh.
spoke, I guess, on behalf of the outreach task force. We don't have a community engagement chair yet, so I don't think that's suited.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. And then I think for library task force, given I think probably our presentation today was the biggest update. So unless anyone has any objections, I will move on from this section of the agenda. Great. Any appointments to committees or task forces? All right, with none noted, are there any motions on the floor? We've come to the end of our agenda.
I move to.
I'll second.
All right. Great. With no objections noted, we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone, for the productive meeting. Our next meeting will be in May. We will see you then. Good night, everyone.